Guys, welcome back to the Gun Collective. Let's get right into this video. In this video, what we decided to do was put a high-end optic on a low-end rifle and a low-end optic on a high-end rifle and just shoot and see what we come up with. So let's get into what the guns are first, and then I'm going to zero them up at 100 yards, and then we're going to see how far we can stretch them out here to distance today, and see if we run into any inconsistencies or just weirdness, you know, having a very capable high-end precision rifle with a low-end scope, or if the low-end rifle is helped at all by a very high-end scope. I don't know. I've never done this, so we'll find out.
The Mag Shack has the mags you need at a solid price all the time. From Smith & Wesson to SIG to Glock to Taurus, from ARs to AKs, they've got it. If you don't believe me, go check the link in the video description to head over to themagshack.com and check out the massive selection they have.
Okay guys, well, what we have here then is an MDT ACC chassis. It is from Modular Driven Technologies. This chassis is about a $1,400 chassis. That's just for the gray part you see there, in case you don't know what I mean by chassis. This is a Terminus Zeus short action. It is a custom action, and that is about a $1,400 action. And then we have a Bartlein barrel chambered in 308, and this was spun up by GA Precision. And you know, that barrel is probably about $850 to get spun up. We've got an Atlas Cal bipod, which is another $350. Inside, we've got a TriggerTech Diamond trigger, which is another $250. And then up here on top, we've got a Generation 1 Vortex Viper 6-24 by 50 MOA scope. And this scope is about $475. Okay, and for comparison's sake here, I have a bone stock Howa 1500. It is sitting in a Hogue overmolded stock that they come in. Barreled action and everything just the way you see it is just over $500. And so that would be considered by most to be a fairly low-end rifle. I put a Harris bipod up on the front for some support. Those run about $100, but then the scope is a Zero Compromise Optics 5-27, and this scope is just shy of $4,000. All right guys, there's a lot of empty holes on this paper. A lot of it was due to zeroing, so I thought it best to just, instead of just throwing up a picture where looks like there's a group, but there's also like these ones that could be considered flyers, and it's just a bigger group, and I'm trying to cover that up. I'm not. I'm showing you everything, and then I'll explain it. Seems to be a little bit easier to me. So this right here would seem to be a 5-shot group. It's actually not. It's 5 completely separate shots, just trying to get my zero just right on the high-end gun with low-end scope. Once I finally got that to where I was happy with it, I went ahead and put a group down here at the bottom, and I'm not sure if you can see this. I'll throw a picture up, but this is probably about a 3/4 MOA 3-shot group. But it's got 2 shots touching, which is consistent with what it normally does, but it'll put 5 shots touching like that and no flyers. This time I did 2 and then 1 up here, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't think I pulled any of those shots. So I put a second group in, and I was aiming up here, and you can see 2 shots touching and 1 a little high and left. So these are like identical 3-shot groups for the most part, similar sizes and everything. So I'm not sure really what's going on there, but I'm operating off of that for my zero. So then with the Howa, I got things kind of dialed in. That's what actually a lot of these shots were, just trying to figure out where I was hitting, because when I was bore sighting it down there, I actually was off of the board here and brought it back on some of these shots. And then I went ahead and I put a 3-shot group right here on this pasty, and this is just outside of 1 MOA here out of the Howa. So we're going to operate off of that zero for the Howa. let's get over to the long range stuff and stretch them out and just see what we see over there. All right guys, 6.5 MOA up for a 385 yard target. I'm gonna be holding about 1 MOA of wind out there. About 1 MOA high, so we're gonna take one off and try again. Wind call was good. Okay, that was dead nuts in the middle. 1 MOA of wind was perfect to the middle. What I do now is I'll go into my solver and I'll change my feet per second to match that wind call or that drop call, and then I'll have pretty good, you know, inside of 600 yards, I'll have it trued up pretty good. So I've got a plate rack out there on the hillside. I'll try to point it out on there. You won't be able to see it. I'll try to get some B-roll of it if I can, but it starts with a really big plate and then gradually gets smaller for 5 different plates. And the smallest plate is sub 1 minute. So it's probably a 3 to 4 inch plate down there at 385 yards. Got it. Sub MOA out at 385 yards. First round impacts, can't complain with that. So now let's switch to the Howa and see if it can do the same thing. Problem is here I got to single feed them because I was a bonehead and forgot the magazine for it. And this scope is actually in mils. It's calling for 1.6. Hit it. And it looks like that was a center. No, that was a low edge. Miss. Miss. Now we're missing the big plate. This is what I was a little worried about, guys, is I'm not sure about the consistency of this rifle. If the rifle's consistent, we shouldn't have any trouble hitting that size of a plate at that distance. Okay, let's try a slightly smaller plate now that we know where we're impacting here. That doesn't make a lot of sense. That was showing low again. All right, here's the Howa again, 385 yards. Okay guys, so I backed up to a new position. This is going to be 450 yards. It's going to be the same target rack, just going to be shooting off of this tank trap instead. 1.5 MOA of right hold. So let's go ahead and see if we can get a first round impact at 450. That is a miss. Let's come back up to the slightly larger plate. Impact elevation is good. I'm holding too much wind. Let's go ahead and back off on that wind hold for that slightly smaller plate. There's the impact. Well, it's a consistent rifle. Say that much. Let's bring the other one in and see what we got. Back to the Howa, so low-end rifle with high-end optic. So far the rifle has not been uber consistent for me. Miss. It just shouldn't be off of that size of plate, man. Alright. We did, but that impact was far bottom right corner. We'll try one more time, see if we can get any kind of consistency. Well, that group is about, it's like a 2 MOA. I'd have to do the exact math, but it's a giant group. All right, you guys, here's what I'm kind of thinking and finding based on this test today. Obviously not an exact test. I've got two completely different rifles, different barrel lengths, even different twist rates. The Howa's got a 1 in 10. The Custom has got like a 1 in 7, 1 in 11.25 or something like that. In this instance, with what I found today, I would absolutely take a low-end scope and a high-end rifle over a low-end rifle and a high-end scope. I don't know what else to say. If a rifle won't shoot, if it's not consistent, you can't hit what you're aiming at with precision, and we're talking about precision long range. Now, if I was just shooting, let's say, deer-sized kill zone, 10 to 12 inches, inside of 400 yards, 300 yards, something like that, this Howa in 308, regardless of what glass I put on it, would probably do the job. But if we're looking for long-range precision, where the targets get progressively smaller and more difficult to hit with winds and everything as far as you go out, 308 or a better cartridge doesn't matter. I'm going to take the consistent gun that I can figure out. It doesn't even matter if like for instance, this SIG ammo was running at just about 1 MOA, slightly under 1 MOA, and that's considered like a bad group these days, especially out of a rifle like this. This should shoot better than a 1/2 inch at 100 yards all the time with just about any factory ammo that you put through it. There's some caveats to that, but the consistency is what you're after, right? It doesn't matter that the scope lacks some features, lacks some clarity, lacks the ability to deal with mirage, and the eye box is weird, and there's chromatic aberration in the scope. Like, I can still see the targets and I can still get hits on target at the various distances with it because the rifle's consistent and the driver, in theory, knows what he's doing. But then you switch over to a rifle that is inconsistent, which was roughly 1 MOA, slightly bigger, down there on the 0 range, but I'm having trouble hitting a 3 MOA plate out there at 450 yards with any kind of consistency. It's putting up a group down there, but it's almost filling the plate. You can't count on that, right? It doesn't matter how well you can see with the high-end optic if it's not consistent. How much money do you spend, right? What's the line of diminishing returns? Well, apparently a $500, $700 scope is sufficient for most people. And I'm thinking, for me personally, based on what I found here today, I'm gonna have to spend a little more than $500 on a quality precision rifle to get the job done in the right way. So, if I had to put numbers on this with my years of experience doing this kind of stuff, I personally would say spend $1,500 on a rifle, spend $1,000, spend $1,500 on an optic, and that is probably a good middle of the road. Certainly you can get it done for less than that. You can absolutely get it done for a lot more than that. But that line of diminishing returns, I don't know. There you have it, guys. Leave us some comments below with what you think about what you saw here today, and stay tuned for more great videos from the Gun Collective.